On the field, I hated Tom. Him in particular because he was just so great.
There's one fight people still wonder about how it would have went down. You versus Jason Taylor back in the day.
I would have beat the shit out of Jason. I would have beat the shit out of him. Jeff Fisher comes on the field. He kneels down over Vince, and he's staring at me. I'm yelling at him. I'm saying, what the f*** are you looking at me for? It was an accident. Somebody messed up. Jeff Fisher tries to stay away from this topic because he knows that he was calling plays to come after me. I think that 2016 we had was the best team of the decade.
Stand on that?
100%. 100%.
We're living in the good old days. Take a look around. Ain't it funny how feels like we're in the good old days. Go and grab a cup, go and fill it up. Cheers to living in the good old days.
When it comes to Glory Daze at linebacker, lights out isn't just a name, it's a mantra. With 3 straight Pro Bowls, Defensive Rookie of the Year award, no rookie burst onto the scene harder than Shawne Merriman. If you want to talk about Glory Daze in the NFL, go no further than the late 2000s Chargers, Antonio Gates, Phillip Rivers, LT. His teams flat out outlived them. You know, Shawne's incredible story is just full of that as well. Outspoken and tough as nails. I can't wait for you to hear our conversation. This is Glory Daze with Shawne Merriman. My guy, Shawne Merriman, joins us today. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
You got it.
Talk a little bit about the Chargers out of the gate. Getting a lot of heat right now, saying the Chargers are overtaking the Chiefs in the division is that team to beat. You know, you got to be flooded with some Chiefs fans probably coming at your ass a little bit right now.
For sure. Whenever you say something and you play for the team, you automatically homer. You get what I'm saying? So, I mean, I say that because I really believe it. You know, they were already getting there last year, and now, you know, with the Chiefs not as good as they were, and then the rest of the division, not just the Chargers, but like the Broncos are better, even the Raiders. You know, they got to upgrade in Geno. They got Genty back there. They got a new, coach. You know what I mean? Like, they're better. And so what happens is, like, everybody else over time just gets better in the division. So that's why I think the Chargers are going to take it.
This year's draft, Jim Harbaugh, they finally get RB1, Omarion Hampton. You know, I know you love this pick. You know, in terms of guys you played against, who does he really remind you of? A guy that, you obviously like the way he plays.
And it's crazy because I played against some of the guys who don't get talked about as much. Like, I would say AP. AP is probably, Adrian Peterson's probably the best that I played against. You know, like, AP was different than anybody on the field. Just the way he ran and the threat that he was every time he touched the ball. He was just a threat. You didn't know what was going to happen. It was going to be a 3 or 4 yard game to 40. You just didn't know if he was going to always do something good. People don't talk enough about, like, Larry Johnson back when Priest Holmes went out and Larry Johnson stepped in. Larry Johnson for a couple of years was like a dog. You know, we couldn't do anything with him. But he's like a combination of a couple guys, man, that can run the ball downhill. But his yard, like, he reminds me of Adrian Peterson because when you start to hit him, his yards after contact. That's what AP was. AP was scary in that way. Like, that first guy is not getting AP down. You know, that yards at the contact. So he's like a combination probably of an AP and, you know, he got a little Eddie George in him too, you know, size-wise and his look. But, yeah, man, between those two for sure.
You know, talking about these college kids now, you know, NIL, all this stuff, you know, I feel like Lights Out would have been
Man. Yeah, man, one thing I really despise is old haters. You get what I'm saying? Like, the old dudes that come in and, you know, back in the day we played with leather helmets and we had no teeth and these guys are soft now. Like, I'm not on that. But I do look back on the times that, like, we would have made a ton of money in this era and it was legal. Nobody complained about it because we built up such a brand that it's hard to do that already in college. It's hard to do that away from the game of football with somebody calling you something other than what your real name is. It's so hard to do that. That means you put in a lot of work and you're fitting a persona and then you created something that's away from the game. And so I look back on it now that, like, I'm not jealous for sure. I'm not jealous, but it's like, damn, I missed out on a lot of money and opportunities because Lights Out would have gone crazy in the NIL.
It is rare for people to be able to create a, you know, like you were saying, create a brand that sticks out from yourself, you know, something that is a little bit different in this NIL. These kids are doing and able to do in college. I mean, we speak about it a lot. People ask me about it all the time, but, you know, it's amazing these opportunities these kids are getting, and, you know, rightfully so. You know, as you get to the league, you didn't waste much time really bursting out into the scene, having a year, 10 sacks, Pro Bowl, Defensive Rookie of the Year. You know, as you look back at that rookie season, you know, who do you really feel is that one person in the building that, like, allowed you to be yourself, allowed you to help you have as much success as you did, really?
Well, first, when I was in high school, LeVar Arrington, who played, linebacker at Penn State and got drafted by the then Redskins, was like a mentor of mine, and he kind of took me under his wing. So I got a chance to experience like NFL shit, everything at an early age. I was around, a lot of stuff. And then Ray Lewis, his brother, younger brother, Keon Lattimore, ended up going playing running back at the University of Maryland. So I got really, really tight with Ray. And it was just a coaching array of life off the field, on the field, that I can just pick up the phone and call him. In fact, and I've never told anybody this, man, when Junior Seau passed, first person I called was Ray. I got the news, I saw it on TV, but I was getting calls back to back to back about Junior. And the room, I never had this happen to me before in my life. I was sitting in my room, and the room felt like it was caving down, like it was getting smaller and smaller. So I got up and went out, went downstairs into like a little common area we had. Nobody was down there. I called Ray, and man, I was on the phone crying for about 3 or 4 minutes straight before I can get anything out. I couldn't even, he was, he knew why I was crying, and he was obviously, emotional too. But I called him, and I was, that was the first person I could think of to call, because that's how tight me and him was. And I was crushed, man. It was a bad, bad day. And like I said, I was crying on the phone for about 3 or 4 minutes before I even got a word out to Ray.
As you go through that rookie season, lights out's kind of born throughout that year,
Yeah.
What do you remember the most about, that kind of coming about and really just seeing that kind of take off as well?
What's crazy is, so the first time, I've been called Lights Out since I was 16 years old. I got that nickname my sophomore year at Frederick Douglass High School in Marlboro, Maryland. But there was no social media and stuff then. So like it was a folktale. I remember we had a Bojangles, a chicken spot up the street from the school, and I was stopping up there, and I heard 2 people next to me talking. I was like, man, you heard about this Shawne Merriman, this Lights Out kid at Douglas? Like, this Lights Out, like, did he knock out Fort? So they're talking, like it became like a folktale. I'm 2 people over. They didn't know I was standing there, but I'm hearing it. And then when I got to Maryland my freshman year, we had a big game on ESPN Friday night, I think it was. And the wide receiver from Georgia Tech, Watkins, come trailing across the field. I'm dropping in the flats. I saw him, hit him. He goes down. He gets up, falls back to the ground, gets up, falls back to the ground, and jogs off to the sideline. That was the first time I actually pointed to the tattoo. And then the crowd got loud, and so I kind of started jumping a little bit with it, just out of emotion. And I got on the sidelines, and Coach Friedgen was like, if you ever do that shit again here, you never gonna play. So he yanked me off the field. We got a penalty because he yanked me off the field because I was doing the Lights Out shit. And so that was the first time I did that. And then, I walked into the locker room. I held out all off season. I didn't show up to nothing. Not a mini camp. The first time I came to San Diego was 2 weeks before the first preseason game. And so like Phillip Rivers and everybody's in the newspaper like, he should be here. So I'm reading this from back in Maryland. I'm pissed off. I'm like, whenever I get this, whoever in front of me gonna get it, because I see all this talking shit. But man, when I walked in the locker room, it was kind of like a movie where, like any given Sunday, you see all these superstars and shit, like these big personalities, and I saw LaDainian Tomlinson for the first time, and I was looking at him like he was Jordan. And Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers, Lorenzo Neal, like all these guys, man, Jamal Williams, that Randall Godfrey, Donnie Edwards, it was so many, Keenan McCardell, we just stacked with like legendary guys and shit. And I come in, hot-headed, I got chains and shit on, I'm very, PG County still. Had, edge about me, probably a little cocky and talking shit to everybody. And I'm like, anybody can get it, what's up? That was just my attitude, and I was really thankful, man, because they seen what I can do and seen, my ability, and I was able to get with Lorenzo Neal. I was training with him after practice 3 days a week. LaDainian Tomlinson will pull me over sometime, and all the OGs, man, I'm really appreciative of them because they saw something, and I kind of got pulled into to that mix.
How was it, obviously, not being there for a lot of the OTAs? Was a little bit of animosity as you're coming into the locker room,
yeah.
A couple weeks before, the season even really gets started?
Yeah, that's why my rookie dinner was so big. That's why
they went after you.
They hit me for 32 grand. And they did that shit, and they won't say it, but I know now. I mean, that they did that because of me not being there, walking in. I got this, lights out persona, and I got chains and shit and shades on, and not giving a shit what nobody think. So they definitely 100% took it out on me on that rookie dinner. So
that's one you'll never forget.
Never,
for sure.
never
Forget for sure.
Never.
Those Chargers-Pats playoff rivalry in 05, must-watch TV. Weren't very fond of Tom Brady back then. How's it feel as you see him now being owner of that team that you really can't stand?
I mean, on the field, I hated Tom. Him in particular because he was just so great. LeVar Arrington told me one time in high school, he was like, hey, if you want to be known as like a great player, you got to have great games against the great quarterbacks. Simple as that. And that never left me as a kid. I just always remembered that the bigger the quarterback was, if I ever want to get mentioned again, because they're going to be showing their highlights for 30 years from now. Yeah. So when they show their highlights, I want to be in that shit, in every single one of them. Yeah. And so, every time we played Tom or Peyton, my rookie year, I got him 3, 4 times. If you were the best quarterback, I got you. Ben Roethlisberger, got him. And it was like, for me, it was a sign of respect because I knew how great they was. But seeing Tom now and his transition, what people don't understand about athletes, man, is like you're not great because you got talent. Like, you're mentally able to put yourself in a whole different zone than anyone else. Because everybody, you walk in the locker room, and all these dudes are big as hell. They're strong. They're athletic. But you got these couple guys that stick out even more than them because they're able to take themselves somewhere mentally that most people can't even imagine. Like, that's why people call him Sicko Tom, Psycho Tom. Because he's able to take his mind somewhere else that most people can't even imagine going there.
Those 06, 07 teams, you guys had a lot of talent, good enough to be able to, get where you guys wanted to go, and then you run into a Patriots team that's, really, really good. Had to be tough coming up short against them a couple of times.
I don't regret a whole lot of stuff in my career. I do regret us not getting one Super Bowl, because I was out 2 weeks ago. I was just in an argument with somebody about this. I think that 2016 we had was the best team of the decade.
Stand on that.
100%, 100%. And I know what was the year that the Patriots went undefeated, almost went undefeated, like 07 or 08. 07. I mean, around that time the Colts, I think, almost had that undefeated season or did. I think that Chargers 016 that we had was the best team of the decade. We were so stacked at almost every position. I mean, people don't even talk about Quentin Jammer, that came out of Texas.
Really good.
Opposite side of him was I think Cromartie was on that team. Eric Weddle, I think, came in the following year, I think in 07, what it was. But we were still stacked back there anyway. Randall Godfrey, who's played 12, 13 years. Donnie Edwards had played 15 years plus. Jamal Williams. Put it this way, dude, we were so stacked. LaDainian Tomlinson is starting. Michael Turner was backing him up. Was third string? Darren Sproles.
Beast.
Bro, so this is why I'm making my arguments valid when I talk to people. I said, we were so stacked. Darren Sproles was the third string running back who could possibly be up for the Hall of Fame for all, his all-purpose yards.
LT obviously being one of the greatest, some absolutely legendary season. What was it like going up against that guy every day and just, watching him play?
One thing about L is he didn't really talk a lot. He did everything full speed. He practiced and always went hard. But when he did, you can hear a pin drop. And so, I think that 06 year that he had when he broke the touchdown record and stuff, I think that was the greatest running back season ever. Ever.
Yeah.
What's crazy is people saw him in the games doing all this shit, but on a Wednesday, he'll go out, swing pass in the backfield, catch it by one hand, boom, jump, go right and cut off his right foot. And I remember seeing that for the first time. And I was over there with the linebacker coaches, and I was over to a couple of my teammates. And I stopped everything. When he did that, I said, you see that shit? I was so shocked that somebody's just so fluently just one hand, boom, jump, hop, go right, cut off the right foot. And they was like, man, this doing that shit. This is what he does.
This is light work.
This is light work. And so by the time we got to the games and he was out there giving, I remember he did Ty Law dirty, the cornerback for the Patriots. And just a lot of guys, he would just go out there and mix them up. And people were so shocked. I said, dude, I saw that 3 times on Thursday. It was just so fluent to him. And, You know, I will always fight, and I would say that he's top 2 or 3 running backs ever.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I think his career, that season that you're talking about, you know, he was as fun to watch, you know, as anybody, and really a different dude for sure. That touchdown season, just crazy. You know, do you ever see anybody even breaking that?
No. If anybody asks me about the teams we had, I've talked about LT and the Gates and everybody else, man. Like, and I hate to even bring myself up into this, but this one particular thing, before he broke that touchdown record, it was the end of the game. I think it was a minute or so left. And I went out and got a sack, strip, fumble recovery, and got the ball back from Jay. I think it was Jay Cutler who I got. And I didn't know how big that moment was at the time, because I'm over there celebrating. I'm doing the lights out dance. I actually did like the the hula dance because I'm going to the Pro Bowl and everything else. And then everything in the stadium slowed down, and this became like this woof, LT, and I'm thinking, and I snapped out of what I just did, and I was like, oh shit, it was about to break the rushing touchdown record. How Denver didn't know that he was getting the ball, like, still to this day, I can't even understand it, because the whole damn crowd is chanting LT. But at that moment, you see like one of those movies and like Rudy, or it's like one of those big movie moments. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was in a movie and I was a part of this movie that was happening right here, and I got this seat, this front row seat, and I'm about to witness something that is never going to happen, in my opinion, never going to happen again. And when he broke the record, and I remember Chris Dillman and Nick Hardwick and all the offensive linemen and O'Neal and raising him up. When I tell you like a real movie moment, this shit felt like not like he wasn't there. It was like I was having an out of body experience, like seeing this. They're lifting him up and he's holding the ball up, and it was probably like one of the best moments of my NFL career to even see that I was a part of that.
I want to take a quick break to talk to you about one of my favorite brands, Fanatics. Some of you might know me as Johnny Football, but today you can all call me Johnny Fancash. Fancash is the top reason bettors choose to bet with Fanatics Sportsbook. Here's why. When you bet with Fanatics Sportsbook, you get Fancash, win or lose. You can then redeem your Fancash on anything Fanatics. Fresh apparel from Mitchell & Ness, rare collectibles, trading cards, and of course, bonus bets with the Sportsbook. It's a rewards program, but for sports betting. So all those bets you make, win or lose, get you closer to something awesome. Also, new customers, don't miss a special welcome offer. Sign up and use promo code Glory Daze to get $200 in bonus bets when you place your first bet of $20 or more. Download Fanatics Sportsbook and get in on the Fancash. And maybe you'll get a cool nickname too. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, call 800-327-5050. New York residents, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents, visit mdgambling-help.org. Now back to the episode. You got the highs of your career, start off on just such a bang, and then 06 starts with a little bit of a boom where you have to deal with some adversity a little bit. What was it like when you first hear that news and have to kind of deal with that?
So when I got suspended in 06, I had it was from the off season. I was taking supplements that just got put on the NFL PA list that year, and I the PA come out and talk to you before the season happens. You take and they put they give you all this information, this packet and all. Like, I balled that shit up and I threw it on my locker. I wasn't, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. This is every year. But turns out it was a new something else that they added to that ban list that I was taking before, So they came out and they had random testing. I was tested about 19 times before this happened. Because when you playing like I'm playing out there, you get randoms all the damn time. I don't care what they like. You getting a random test, right? I was like, just another day. It was like a late June, early July. I went out to take a test, and so we're playing the Raiders Monday Night Football, and I go out there. I think I had like 3 or 4 or 5 sacks. Like, I had a bunch of sacks at opening night. Monday Night Football, you the only show in town. So after the game, my phone, I had 50 or 60 text messages. Just everybody watched the game and everything else. We go back to San Diego, and on Tuesday, I go in my locker, and there's a FedEx in my locker. And so I'm thinking, like, this is the first game of the year. I'm not getting fined, because normally they fine you a week or two after this, whatever you get fined for in the game, whether it's socks or uniform or late hit, whatever. So I'm like, this is weird. Like, we just had the first game. I'm getting fined. So I open it up, and I'm looking at it, and it was like, you tested positive, your A sample, da 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 da. And so we had a crew like a team where we played jokes. I mean, some of the worst shit you can think of. We were like, it didn't care if it involved family, friends, wives. Like, we didn't care. Kids, we played jokes no matter what. So
that's the first place your mind goes.
That's the first place I'm like, somebody typed up this letter to scare the shit out of me, right? So I'm going around. I asked one of our linebackers, Stephen Cooper, and I asked Sean Phillips, and I go to them and said, "Listen, whoever playing around, y'all, this shit not funny, right?" So I'm thinking that they're joking. I said, "Man, we ain't do that." NFL letterhead, and I mean, I was like, somebody went way out to do this. This is really good. So whoever did this shit, bravo, great job, you got me. And I went and checked with like 2 or 3 more people, and they was like, "No, we didn't do anything." So I take that letter, and I go to our trainer, James Collins, and I said, "James, what is this?" And he read it. He's like, "Man, I think you tested positive for performance enhancing this and this." So I call the league office and the testing thing, and they was like, "Yeah." And I'm shocked, right? Because I'm like, in my head, steroids like needles, that's what I know about them. So I'm like, if you're taking steroids, just needles. And I was like, no, I didn't do that. So at the time, I didn't know that there can be stuff that's tainted or in other products that you don't have to FDA approved. They can put anything they want in there. And so when I found out, man, nobody know about it. I got the letter, so weeks go by, and we're week 2, and it finally hit on the news. We're on the plane. And so all the alerts from ESPN, from every network, Fox Sports, everybody you can think of, and everybody's looking at their phone and then looking up to find me. So I'm like, oh shit, it must be out, it must, and we're on the plane. And the first person to come back to me, which some of them already knew, some of the coaches, but we kept it tight because what I did is I had all my supplements sampled. And it came back as the one I was taking was the one that I shouldn't have been taking. And so league policy is whatever you put in your body is on you, no matter what it is. You took it, we didn't approve it, it's your fault. And I was like, okay, cool. So I thought the NFL was going to come back and just fine me, for the 4 games and not suspend me because they got the supplement. I'm like, I'm good. This is what I did. I'm not trying to beat the system, like nothing. But I remember that plane ride on the way home. All you heard is bling, 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 bling. Everybody's alert, start hitting. And so I actually appealed it, but this is why I appealed it. I was looking at the schedule and who we had and which games they wasn't going to need me.
Trying to make it fit in the right window.
Trying to make it fit in the right window. So I think we had, the Bengals wasn't any good, like really good at the time, and then the Browns, it was like 3 to 4 teams wasn't that great at the time. So I got my attorney and my agent to call him back and say, all right, fine, you know what? I'm not going to win this. I did, I violated the policy. I'll take my suspension now. So we actually carved it out where they didn't need me for those 4 games, man. But I came back. I was pissed off, man.
There's one fight people still wonder about how it would have went down. You versus Jason Taylor back in the day. How that.
I would have beat the shit out of Jason. I would have beat the shit out of him. We had the same agent, by the way. So I love Jason. I love Jason. He was like one of my favorite players. That stab, he was. I watched him over and over. The timing of it, the longevity. But during 2006, when I got suspended and we were all up, it was me, him, and Shane Bailey, top 3 for the Defensive Player of the Year. And Jason was hating big time, like huge, like just hating in the media. I'm like, dude, okay, you're campaigning for yourself. I get it. But, like, enough's enough. You know what I mean? Let the fans vote. If they think I should win, then I'm good. But he's just going overboard. We go to the Pro Bowl that year. The first person I look for Jason Taylor. I was going to put my hands on him. So I put my bags down. I said, I didn't check in. I put my bag in the bell desk because I was already ready to go home if they sent me home for fighting Jason. So if it wasn't for LaDainian Tomlinson, if it wasn't for Lorenzo Neal, they would have sent my ass home because I went beelining straight for I saw him across the way. It was a restaurant, and he was like on the other side, and I beeline to him. And then Eugene Upshaw at the time, who was the head of the NFL PA, Gene Upshaw. he stopped me. And then what he did was, and I don't know how the conversation went, but I think they told him that I wasn't really suspended for taking, the real steroids and how they broke it down. But yeah, I was definitely on site.
17 and a half sacks that year, and you missed 4 games.
Yeah.
You got to feel like you maybe have a chance to break the record if you don't miss those 4 games.
I would have for sure broke that. I mean, because the teams actually that I missed was probably the teams I would have gone double up and triple up on sacks. So I definitely would have broke the record. But I can't fault nobody but myself at that time. They're like the NFL made it clear. I thought it was bullshit a little bit, but if you look in the fine print, it's like whatever you take, it's on you. Now, what happened was after that year was they created like this whole Merriman rule thing where you wasn't able to go have any accolades if you get suspended after the season, so you can't go to the Pro Bowl. So they call that like the Merriman rule. I really want to thank Roger Goodell for this because he didn't have to do this. He did, or somebody from the league office, because of this whole rule, and I was just getting drilled. I was getting drilled like bad, like I'm just out here just taking steroids, and I'm good because I took steroids, and it was really bad at that time. Roger Goodell or somebody from the league office put out that I've taken 19 tests. I failed the 20th test. So I had 19 tests prior to that, and they put that out, and they didn't have to, and because I think they thought just the media attention and what I was getting for that reason. Like, you don't pass 19 tests and fail on the 20th if you're taking it don't make any sense. So still to the day, man, whenever I see him, I don't bring that up, but I really appreciate him for doing that because they didn't have to.
As you look at that stretch from 05 to 07, 39 and a half sacks, where do you rank that in terms of just the most dominant little stretch in NFL history? It's got to be up there, huh?
I think that 3-year stretch was maybe top 3 or 4 of all time. I think so LT's up there and Reggie White, but I will probably rank myself 3rd in that stretch.
07 season, you end up getting hurt, changes the trajectory a little bit. Speak a little bit about that and having to deal with that and how much it really affected you moving forward.
07, we're playing the Tennessee Titans, and I got 2 or 3 sacks in the first half. I'm going for 4, you know what I mean? Like
It'll be one of those days.
It's one of those days. I'm going to hit them for 4 or 5. I just know it. One particular play, Vince Young is rolling out. It's a run play, but he pans the ball off, rolls out still. The tackle Stewart is still blocking me. And so I'm thinking that Vince, because his back is towards me, he still got the ball. So I don't hit him, but I run into him. But I run into him and I break his ribs. And he's on the ground and he's like literally screaming in pain. And so I'm looking at him, I'm standing over him, I'm like, bro, like, you all right? Like, what happened? You all right? I'm checking on him. Jeff Fisher comes on the field, he kneels down over Vince, and he's like staring at me. And I asked him, I said, I'm yelling at him, I said, what the fuck are you looking at me for? I'm yelling, I said, what the fuck are you looking at me for? Like, it was an accident, somebody messed up. So the following play, they had the tight end out, flexed out from the line of scrimmage. He motioned down and cracked back me. He was offsides, and they got a flag, but just drilled me in the side of my helmet. So now I knew that some shit was said. They're coming after me. Jeff Fisher tries to stay away from this topic. Anytime it's brought up or somebody asks him about it, he runs from it whenever he gets a chance, right? And I don't, other than right now, you're asking me, I don't talk about it either.
Yeah.
But he stays away from it because he knows that he was calling plays to come after me. So the following play, after they earholed me, they got a penalty, they moved him back 5 yards. They run a play, the play is 20 yards away. And Kevin Mawai and the tackle Stewart, they're blocking me 20 yards away from the football. Kevin Mawai, or one of them, goes down and hits the front of my leg, and I hurt my knee. Pop! So, at that time, I never had a serious injury before. I've never had a serious, something to keep me out a couple of days, but nothing serious. So I get up, and my knee is like just wobbling. It's like, this shit is weird. Like, I've never been hurt, so I don't know what that feeling's like. I try to put my foot back in the ground and just move, and it's dangling. So I walked off the field, and what happened was my PCL and my LCL popped. Totally ruptured. And so we had a bye week or something after that, and I missed a couple of games, but I ended up bracing the shit back up for like 3 or 4 more games and playing on it. We had such a good team that I was not going to miss that season. I knew we had a shot to go to Super Bowl, and I was not missing it for nobody. And so I'm out there, my knee, every week, I had my knee drained. It was like 60, 70 plus cc's out, like it was a tube that big of fluid that they had to drain out of my knee so I can play. And so I played because I was like, we're going to the Super Bowl. This year we're going, and I'm not missing it. So I just taped it up, played an AFC Championship game, and walked in there really. I took it. I was on everything. Tore it all, you name it. I was taking everything because I was not going to miss that game and get an opportunity for us to win the Super Bowl. And me continuing to play ultimately altered my entire career because I didn't get the knee surgery that I needed. And, if I can take that back now, that I probably would. But then again, man, our team was so good, and we actually had a real chance, a real opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, and I didn't want to miss it.
If someone told you that after that play, you'd only have 6 more sacks in the league after that game, you probably wouldn't believe it, huh?
Hell no. I mean, that's a game and a half for me. So the knee, after I got the surgery and I came back, I was fine from the knee. But as you see a lot of guys, when they get surgery at any parts of their body, something else hurts because they start overcompensating. And my knee, I came back and played. I ended up popping my Achilles after. When that happened, that's when I knew I was done. Now, I came back and played a couple years in Buffalo, but I was never the same. That's the most difficult thing for an athlete, especially for somebody who played at such a high level and so dominant for so long, to watch film and be like, yeah, that ain't me. I would have had, 3 sacks this game, and I can't even fucking get past this offensive tackle. And that was a tough one.
During your time in SD, you got to play with some good quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers ahead of you at NC State. You played each other a couple times as well. What do you remember most about playing in those early matchups before you even become teammates?
I hated Phil. Dude, I hated Phil guts. Like, in the film session, we got the vertical and the horizontal angle. No sound, no nothing. Every time something happened, you just see Phil's like head jerking back over. He's just the whole game. He's like, man, I'm gonna fuck him. You know what I mean? I had this thing, and I just hated Phil. And every year, he never beat us his whole career. When I was there, his whole career, we played him. He never beat us. His last play in NC State, we beat them on the final seconds of the game. I hit him in the back of the end zone, and I get up and I push off his chest. I really push off his chest after I hit him. And I'm walking away, and I feel somebody grab my ankle and twist it. I'm shocked. I said, no, he didn't. I said, no, he didn't. He ain't fucking. He got up, and not only did he grab my foot, he got up and faced off with me and said, "What's up?" And in my head, I was like, "Oh my God, I like this dude." I was like, I really, really like this dude. And then I got a chance to play with him.
How was that first interaction as you come into the locker room?
Phillip Rivers is the most competitive person I've ever been around. And I'm not talking about player, person. And I would talk to a lot of his teammates at NC State, and they just loved him. Everybody that I talked to, they'll play with him at NC State, loved him. And this is before I played with him. I'm like, man, you loudmouth ass, you like him? All he do is talk shit. He's like, man, Dave's like, dude, you're wrong, bro. Like, when you play with him, you're going to love this dude. I'm telling you, you're going to love every one of his teammates. 15 of them I talked to, because I would go back to some of this stuff with ACC at the time. He's the dude that you want to, if anything go down, you want him with you.
Yeah.
Because he with ever. And it was, man, just playing with him was one of the, greatest things of my career in general.
Obviously, you see a bunch of clips now, but he was that much of a trash talker, huh?
You know what? It didn't even matter what it was. Whether it's cards or dominoes, it didn't matter what it was. And this is what he used to do. Him and LT used to do this to me. When you get in the season, you're in the weight room after, you got to get your 2 or 3 lifts in a week. So you're not in there going super heavy and shit, right? Like, I'm not during the off season, like I'm in there pounding 180s on the dumbbells and shit. Phillip will walk by me, say we're playing the Seattle Seahawks that week. And he'll walk by me, he'll stand over me while I'm lifting. He'll say, "Oh, you got Walter Jones this week. That ain't gonna do nothing." I'm like, what? But this is the competitiveness that he would have. He would carry around all the time. And a lot of us, me, LT, Stephen Cooper, a lot Gates was probably the biggest reason that Phil had this thing with him, because we also gave him, we talked back to him, he talked back to us. But Phil was a masterful impersonator. Masterful dude. So you had the Freestyle Fridays in the locker room. Whatever the biggest radio track was, we would always play whatever was hot on the radio at that time. Phillip would just listen to us. You know, you've been around like a kid that would like just repeat anything. You got to watch if you curse. They would just repeat or do anything you say. That's how Phil was. Phil picked up on everything that was going. So whatever the hottest track was at that time on the radio, Phil would pick up on it. And so one time we was in a defensive meeting room, the whole defense, and we're hearing somebody come down the hallway, and somebody's rapping. It's like, who is that? Somebody rapping. We walk by, and it's Phil rapping to our freestyle, like one of the Freestyle Friday, the music we just had. And man, we're in there crying, laughing. But he was the just the ultimate team guy. He'll go and sit down with the D linemen, the linebackers, DBs, and just fit in with everybody, man. He was the best to play with.
You were the pick that came out of the Rivers Manning draft swap, 04 between the Giants and Chargers. Do you ever really feel tied to that trade and having to prove the Chargers right?
Yeah, big time. In fact, every time I go to New York, the New York fans are like, "You should have been here," and I say back to them like, "Well, y'all got a couple Super Bowls out the deal, so it ain't But for sure, I was probably gonna be a Giant. The city of San Diego like hated Eli, and I didn't know. Like for me, if you had an opposite color helmet on, I didn't like you.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, what the reasons were. If you played against me, I just didn't like you. Period. During that 60 minutes, those 4 quarters, you were enemy to me no matter what. But for that reason, like the city of San Diego, like hated Eli, and I didn't know how much they hated him until I hit him. Never heard the stadium that loud before, ever. And I hit him, and I'm standing up over him, and the stadium just is rumbling. And so at that time I realized how much the city just really hated him for doing that.
Yeah, it's stuck around for forever too, him making that decision. Yeah. Your first year, you get a chance to play with Drew Brees as well. A guy that I loved watching play the quarterback position. 12-4, you guys are a playoff team. When they let Drew walk in 05, was there concern in the team at all? Like, man, we let a guy go who was leading us to some wins and could play.
So the last play of the regular season, Drew rolls out, fumbles the ball or something happened. He reaches out to grab the ball, and they jump on back of him. You can hear his shoulder pop out of place. It sounded like a tree branch. Pop! And just heard him screaming. It was the loudest, like I'll never forget to this day. And they brought him on the sideline. His arm is still out of place. And so they had to, it wasn't dislocated, it was worse than a dislocation, how they had to fix it. So nobody, forget him playing for the Chargers again, nobody thought that Drew was going to play football. Yeah. Like, it was that bad. And during the off season, we used to work out with Todd Durkin. We all had the same trainer. We worked out when Drew was there. I saw Drew band work, like I've never seen anything like this. Him working, and I remember when he couldn't throw 5 yards on the field because his shoulder was just getting back. And a few weeks later, he's throwing 10. A few weeks later, he's throwing 15. A few weeks later, now he's throwing, out routes. And, so I seen the work, and I never at that point seen anybody so dedicated and focused to get back on the field. So forget about Drew Brees ever playing for the Chargers. Nobody thought he was going to play football again. So the Chargers, when they made that change, they had to, because nobody literally thought that he would ever play football again. It was the worst injury that I think I've ever saw in person.
It had to be amazing to see what his career ended up coming out to be, and coming back from that and being able to overcome that and just turn into one of the best the best quarterbacks the game really has ever seen.
Yeah, and it too, how often you get a chance to come in the locker room, you got Drew Brees as the starter and Phillip as the backup. But that goes back to my argument from that.
Yeah.
Those teams we had were so stacked. You got Phillip Rivers, who I believe is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. You got him backing up a Hall of Fame and Drew Brees. That's how stacked we were.
Time with the Chargers comes to an end. What's that moment like as you're finally closing a chapter of some really good seasons for you, for those teams, and deciding to move on and go play somewhere else?
I couldn't stay healthy. And because I'm so business minded, I never took it personal at all, because I just couldn't stay healthy. And I remember, and this is something I use to this day in business, especially when somebody's not performing. I went up to our general manager, and he called me up there to the office, and he said, "Shawne, we got to stop the bleeding." I said, "What do you mean?" And we already bumped it. We didn't like each other a whole lot, for a certain period of time. He said, "Shawne, we got to stop the bleeding." I said, what do you mean? That's when I found out that they were waiving me, cutting me, basically. And I remember going out in the building, and I was so I knew it was coming, but you just don't know. Like, that's what people don't understand. Like, there's no 2-week notice, right? There's no 30-day. You come in one day, and that might be it. And so I knew it was coming because I couldn't stay healthy, but I didn't know when. And so we played the Raiders. I went up. They called me in the office, and A.J. Smith, the general manager, told me, and I went to go see the owner. Bro, it was like tears. Marty Schottenheimer, it was like real tears in that building when I left. Most people don't play with the same organization, or they get traded, cut away. We all know what's going to happen sometimes. Very few people ever stay with the same organization. So I knew that could be a possibility one day when my ass was old or I couldn't perform anymore. So I didn't think it was going to happen when I was like, 25 or 26. It was caught me off guard. But it was a sad day, man. There was a lot of people just tearing up and emotional in that building. So yeah, I was shocked.
Hey, real quick, I want to give a shout out to our new sponsor, Athletic Nicotine. If you're looking for a clean, sustainable energy boost without the jitters, this one's for you. Athletic Nicotine offers the lowest dose, slow release, tobacco-free nicotine made right here in the USA. And it's free from artificial sweeteners and microplastics. Whether you're an athlete, a biohacker, or just someone who loves getting into that flow state, this product is designed to gradually lift your energy, helping you stay focused and sharp without crashing. It's perfect for shifting your mindset and keeping you in the zone all day long. I use Athletic Nicotine on the golf course when I need to lock in and take the edge off. Or sometimes I throw one in during or pre-workout. It's the best performance tool to sharpen your mind. Ready to level up your focus? Head over to www.athleticnicotine.com/Johnny to grab yours today. Now let's get back to the show. Growing up in D.C. as a kid, talk to me a little bit about these AAU basketball teams you had. You featured yourself, KD, Michael Beasley, a nice little list of some guys there for sure.
What's funny is, and I never told anybody, so Michael Beasley used to stay at my grandmother's house with us when he was a kid. So Michael Beasley's dad and my uncle were best friends. And Michael Beasley's dad could hoop. He was like, the neighborhood guy, going in, hustle everybody, take everybody money, and then leave. So I've known Bees like since he was a kid. I remember him walking in my grandmother's kitchen, walking around and hanging out. And then we kind of separated for a while, and he went somewhere else for some time. But a lot of in that Prince George's County, Maryland area, a lot of big name players, KD being one, come from that. Nolan Smith that ended up playing at Duke. DeMar Johnson, he got in a bad accident. I think he fell asleep behind the wheel that was at Atlanta Falcons. But the list goes on. You can see all that talent from that PG County, that DMV area for sure, but particularly that PG County area. Somebody need to do a story. Somebody need to do something about that, because there's so many from that DMV area that came up and became superstars, either in basketball or football or some other sport.
There's definitely, throughout my time, from people from the DMV area, from that area, some definitely dogs you're going to run into that can hoop, that can play some football, that are some good athletes from that area. KD's always been this quiet, reserved kind of guy. You got any good stories about him coming up?
What's funny about KD and Beasley and all of them, everything they're doing now, they were doing at 11 and 12 years old. Football, we start getting on the map later on in high school, and really in college. Your first, second year, people know okay, this dude's going to the NFL. Everybody knew they were going to the NBA at 11 or 12. Everything they're doing right now, they were doing as kids. And so it's funny because I played. We all came to the same AAU, basketball league. But I was football players say, I used to play Ben. I was like Ben Wallace. You know what I'm saying? I was Ben Wallace. I wasn't out there dropping 30. But I very much was all county, all state, all the, accolades and stuff like that, man. But I started growing, got into weights and lifting, and I was just too aggressive to play basketball. That's how I even found football from the start. I was just too aggressive. My high school, my Boys and Girls Club League basketball, Pee-wee League coaches said, hey, we got a sport for you. We don't know if you're going, how well you're going, but we got a sport. This is, you actually going to enjoy being who you are.
In this area, DC too, dangerous area, one of those areas where you feel to really kind of make it out, being the athlete that you are, it's either go play that sport, get to the next level, go make it, or life goes in a completely different way. Speak a little bit about overcoming that and being able to face that.
Yeah. So, growing up in PG County, so Prince George's County, Maryland is not what it is now, what it was in the late 80s and 90s, because the crack epidemic hit D.C. first out of anywhere in the country. It was in D.C. And so I remember like going as a kid with my mom. She would take me and my sister to, crabs. We would go eat a lot of crabs and stuff to Haines Point and Anacostia Park in D.C. and it'd be shootouts. My mom was very street smart. So she didn't wait for the shootouts to happen. She knew they were going to happen. She would tap us and like, hey, let's get on up out of here. So grew up in Capitol Heights, Forestville, District Heights. So everybody, all the stuff I'm saying now, everybody know like what those areas were like. That's where I was from. And you to make it out of there, you got to be built different. You got to be completely built different, man. And people see Bees and stuff, and I'm like, Bees is, he's from that area. That's how you got to be, being from where we came from. And it's just you build up like this extra layer of skin, man, that most people don't have. You got an edge about you. And so if you make it out of there, you can practically make it anywhere you go in this world, because it was one of those times where in the late 80s and 90s, I remember the neighborhood that was like not even a mile from me was on the murder capital list 5 years straight, top 10. Not the city, the neighborhood that was less than a mile from me was top 5 or top 10 murder capital in the country for like 5 years straight. And so, yeah, man, it was tough. And I wanted to stay home and go to matter of fact, man, and I never told anybody this. When I got an offer at the University of Maryland, I didn't even want them to come to where I was living. I didn't want them, because it was a shootout the day before, and it was still taped off. And so Coach Friesen and Mike Loxley, who's the head coach of the University of Maryland now, he was a running back coach. I didn't even want them to come there to see how bad it was, because I didn't want to put them in any danger. So I went to the school even they wanted to come and see me. Wow. Because it was so bad.
Wow. You've been open about the conditions, you grew up in with your mom, lost your home to a fire. How did those experiences that you went through and your upbringing affect your perspective and your outlook on what life is?
When you lose your home, because that's the most prized possession you got. When you lose your home, and, I remember what happened was my babysitter, at the time, I think I was 10 or 11 years old, my babysitter had witnessed a murder in the neighborhood. And it was triplets. They were 3 triplet brothers who murdered some guy in my neighborhood. My babysitter saw it, so they were coming to do something about it. And we were all down there, and they took, what do you call the one? It was the Molotov cocktail, when you light the fire. Yeah. And threw it through the glass. And she had a bunch of us kids in there, and we all got out the building, except for one little girl who burned alive or burned in her sleep. She never woke up. And I watched it. I was probably about 20 feet away, and I watched the flames kind of engulf the bed with her on it. And, seeing something like that at that age, you don't even know what that does to you, because it almost seemed like for a long time, I thought it wasn't real, because that only happens in movies. But you don't even think that is even possible. And it didn't really hit me that was like a traumatic experience until I was 18. That's when it clicked, and I was like, this really happened. And the little girl's brother, who was about 6 years old, she was 4, the little girl's brother, banging on the glass to get him out. The fire department finally broke and got him out, but his sister had burned. So you don't, crazy. And for years, man, I would think I was 17, 18 years old before I started to say that really happened. It wasn't a movie.
It's obviously something that, is going to scar you and stick with you for a while to really have to see that and grow up in the way that you did. And there's got to be one moment as you look back on it a little bit where you're like, man, you got to be thankful for the way things went and being able to make it out of a situation like that. As you get into the football a little bit, you get into high school, you named Defensive Player of the Year, had some options coming out of high school. As you're starting to get recruited and you're starting to, have some of these big schools come in, what do you remember about those times and how that was?
I remember I had all the offers, and I put them in a Safeway brown paper bag. And that's my grandma. My grandma just passed away, but she had it. I still got them. And there's offers in there from everybody, all the big schools. But at that time, all the top players in our area, they left and went somewhere else. You know, like people didn't really remember that KD's from PG County. He went to Texas, right? And all, you know, Beasley and all these guys. We had so much talent there, but I was like, I want to be the first one to not go to Penn State. I want to be the first one to not go to Ohio State or go to USC or some big school, because I wanted to be kind of start a trend to let all the rest of these kids know, like, you can be a top prospect and stay home, you know, because I was like, and I was like recruiting at that age. I said, yo, if we all stay home, we can win a championship. And they did. A lot of guys like Vernon and like a lot of guys from the area, they start to stay home after that.
Yeah, that was my next question. You know, Vernon coming in a year later, joining that team. That was a dog for real.
Yeah. Vernon, let me tell you, man, so people don't know, Vernon didn't really play football. He only played like 1 or 2 years in high school. When Vernon got to Maryland his freshman year, he was a freak athlete. The two freakish athletes I've ever played with ever is Vernon Davis and Antonio Cromartie. Two freakish athletes I got a chance to play with. But Vernon got there and he was just raw. He didn't know anything about football. And in practice, we had the one-on-one pass rushing drills, and he would try to block me. I would just throw Vernon ass everywhere. Just throw every day. Every day I would throw Vernon ass everywhere. Because he never played, he didn't have a whole lot of experience. And so I think he got tired of that shit. His sophomore year, my junior year, he came back. This motherfucker got so strong, he got even faster. We used to have the weight room records on our, you know, they keep them up in the weight room. And I broke everyone. I was up there for every hand clean, power clean, squat. Vernon came up there the next year, sophomore year, whoop, took all them shits down. Got every record that I had, took everyone down. The only thing I think I still had up there is the vertical. He jumped like a 39.5 and I jumped to 40.
Yeah.
Everything else, squat, bench, and it was so, like, I saw it in 1 year, him become like this phenom, you know, and he got technical. He can block now, strong as an ox, route runner. I used to chase his ass in practice, had 101s, had to run routes with Vernon, 250 to ran a 4.3. Freaky shit. And, but we just, you know what they used to do, the students during our practice, when we had the 101s, they used to poke holes in the side of the fence so they can see. And we'll look outside, and there'll be a line of students lining up to see me and Vernon go against each other. They like cut holes in the thing so they can look through. But we see all these like 50 or 60 people shadow through just to watch me and Vernon go at it. And it was, you know, iron sharpens iron, man. And I got to the league, and I was like, well, I know I ain't gonna have to see this shit. You know, now I go see and play. Well, fortunately, playing with Antonio Gates, but you know, Vernon was such a freak athlete, man. I've never seen anything like that.
You know, you obviously go, you know, 12th in 05. A year later, Vernon comes out and goes in the top 10 again. Yeah. You know, it's got to mean a lot to both of you guys coming from where you came from, and obviously your school. That, you know, two guys coming off that early in the draft and going to the NFL to make an impact. Yeah,
and I wasn't shocked too, because me and Vernon was in competition with everything. If I bought some jewelry, he went to go buy it. If I bought a hat, he would go buy the hat. If I bought clothes, he would go buy clothes. And so at the time, I was the highest drafted player out of the University of Maryland ever. And so I was not shocked to see Vernon come back, and I think he went 6th the following year. But again, you know, we went at it every day so much. By the time he got to the league, man, it was like, you know, everybody else he played against was like, whatever.
You know, close with his brother as well. Obviously, a tragic how everything kind of happened. You know, that had to have hit you pretty hard a little bit, obviously, knowing him and being close.
Yeah, man, it was tough. You know, because I used to give his brother, Vontae, he had like this big-ass smile, right? Like, and he's called me Lights. And he was like, you know, I used to fuck with him so much. And he would say, Lights, how you going to do me like that, Lights? How you going to do me like that? He was just, you know, he's like my little brother, too. And so when I saw his passing, I let a little bit of time go by before I reached out to Vernon, because I'm sure that everybody was reaching out to him. But, you know, Vernon came from D.C., you know, Washington, D.C., and he also grew up extremely tough, and I think that is what really brought us closer. And, you know, his family, like my family, man, so when that happened, I was broken up pretty good for a couple of days, and I didn't want to reach out to her. I texted him, but I didn't call him because I knew everybody was calling him, and there was a lot of uncertainty what happened. And that was rough, man. And that was even now, like every few months or so, you know, I'll just reach out, ask him how you holding up, you know, just from that, because who knows if he's just sitting around having a bad day and thinking about Vontae, man. So I'll hit him up and just check on him.
Always like to end the episode a little bit with, you know, a couple questions. One, Looking back, if you had to choose one word to define, your glory days, the peak of your career, what's that word for you, and kind of what sums up, your career on the field?
The first thing that comes to my mind is relentless. It's one thing to be stacked with talent, and you got speed, and I had size and explosive and stuff, man. But I wanted somebody to turn on the film and watch me come from the other side of the field and run somebody down, then punish them when I get there at 270. Just having that relentless mindset, man. I wasn't going to be stopped, and you wasn't nothing you're going to be able to do with me. And I just always kept that. Still to this day, I still got it.
Well, man, more than anything, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on, always sharing a little bit about, your story, unbelievable career. It's always good to see you, my guy.
Bro.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
dude.
bro. Much
right.
love.